Good morning, everyone. I am Teacher Jarrett, and today we are going to be reading a story about animals helping each other. Okay? So today we can see that we have a folk tale here, right? And a folk tale teaches us a lesson by telling us a story about animals and what they do to help each other or what lessons they learn, right? So, the title of the story today is Fly to the Rescue, retold by Vita Jimenez, illustrated by Kathleen McCord. So we know that the author is not Vita Jimenez, right? Retold means that someone made this story up a long time ago. But Vita Jimenez heard the story and she really liked it. And so she told the story her own way. Okay? So let's look at this picture. We see here's the fly. We see here's a deer. And here's a beaver. And here's some, I wonder what those are. They look like muskrats, kind of, right? Yeah. So let's go to the next page. Oh, we have a paired read today at the end too, called Animal Traits. So our genre is folktale, right? We can see at the top, folktale. And our essential question is, how do animals' bodies help them? Fly to the Rescue, retold by Vita Jimenez, illustrated by Kathleen McCord. Paired read Animal Traits on page 13. So today we are learning about how animals' bodies help them, right? We learned earlier in the week about other animals and how their bodies help them too, right? So today we are going to see probably how a fly's body can help it. Okay, so here's the story. Long ago, there was a splendid river. Its water had a very special taste. Every animal liked it. So the animals went to the water and drank the water because it tasted so good, right? So we can see here's the beavers, and here's the deer, and here's, I don't know what those are. We'll see. I think they're muskrats, though. One day, Moose stopped at the river for a drink. He liked the water a lot, so he drank and drank and drank. He drank so much water. Two beavers were watching. Moose is drinking all our water, they said. So the beavers are here looking at the moose, and he just keeps drinking and drinking and drinking, and all the water is getting slurped up by the moose. That's sad if there's other animals that want to drink the water too, right? Yeah. Oh, 4 muskrats were watching too. You can see here's the muskrats. 1, 2, 3, 4. We must stop Moose, they said. And we can tell that these are muskrats from their tails, right? These tails are really skinny. The beaver tail is very wide, right? So we have 2 beavers and 4 muskrats, all sad and worried that the moose is going to drink all of their water. Oh no. 8 fish spoke up. What about us? They said. We need to live in the water. That's very true. The fish need the water so they can live in it. So if it all gets slurped up by the moose, then they won't be able to have their home. Let's count the fish, and then we'll go to the next page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 fish. Okay, let's go to the next page. The fish looked at the beavers and said, "Tell the moose to go away." The beavers shook their heads. "No way," they said. "Moose is huge," right? Moose is so big. So the fish told the beavers to ask Moose to leave, but the beavers can't because the moose might kick them or hit them with his horns, right? And the beavers don't want to get hurt. Fly heard the animals talking. "Maybe I can help," said Fly. The animals smiled. "What help can a little fly give us?" So we can see here's the beavers and here's the muskrat, and the little fly is only this big, right? So the fly thinks he can help, but the animals all think that's a joke. The animals think he's too small to be able to help them, right? Because remember, the beavers said they were too small, and the fly is even smaller than the beavers, right? So let's see. Fly said, "I will let Moose carry me." Then what? Asked the animals. "You must wait and see," said Fly. So Fly will let the moose carry him. All the animals want to see what is going to happen. Fly sat on Moose. He waited and waited. Then he bit Moose's leg. Moose stomped his foot. Fly held on. Moose stomped harder and harder. The ground sank, and water rushed in. So Fly was on the moose, and he bit his leg to make the moose stomp the ground, right? And as Moose stomped the ground, that made the ground go down. And when the ground went down, the water could come rushing into the little lake that everyone was drinking from, right? Yeah. So Fly actually solved the problem by getting the moose to bring more water into the little pond. Okay, let's see what's next. Moose ran away. So after Fly bit the moose and it stomped the ground hard, it ran away because it didn't like to get bit, right? The small can win if they use their brains, Fly said. The animals jumped and clapped. Yay! So that's the end of our story today. And we can see that the fly used its brain and used its little body and its sharp teeth in order to solve the problem for all of the animals, right? So the animals were very happy that Fly helped them. Yeah. Okay. So now it's time to respond to reading. Yay! Okay. So let's make our, let me read this first. Retell. Use the chart to help you retell Fly to the rescue. Okay, so let's make our sequence chart. First, next, then last. Okay, and we'll get our arrows in because we know that we have to tell the story in this order for it to make sense, right? Okay, so let's say first. First, there were a lot of animals drinking near a pond, right? Let's go up and see. Was it a pond or was it a river? Ooh, a river. Okay. Near a river. So they were all drinking by the river, and then a moose came up. One day, a moose came to drink the drink and drank so much water, right? Okay, so first there were a lot of animals drinking near a river. One day a moose came to drink and drank so much water. So next all of the animals were worried, right? So we can say, next, all of the animals were worried, but none of the animals could get Moose to go away, right? So next, all of the animals were worried, but none of the animals could get the moose to go away, right? The beaver said they were too small, and the fish were really too small. So the fly came, right? Let's make this a little bigger. So our next piece of the story is, then a fly came and offered to help. The other animals thought the fly was too small, right? So then the fly came to help, but all of the animals laughed at the fly and said he was too small, right? Yeah. So now what happened at the very end? Last, fly sat on Moose and he bit the moose's leg and the moose ran away, right? So last, fly sat on Moose and bit his leg. Moose ran away. Fly said, the small can win if they use their brains, right? Okay, so we can see that this was how the story was told. So first there were a lot of animals drinking near a river. One day a moose came to drink and drank so much water. Next, all of the animals were worried, but none of the animals could get Moose to go away. Then a fly came and offered to help. The other animals thought the fly was too small. Last, Fly sat on Moose and bit his leg. Moose ran away. Fly said, the small can win if they use their brains. So that's the story. Now let's answer some questions. Okay. The first question is, which animals speak first? Okay, which animals speak first? So let's go up to the top page. Remember, when animals speak, we have quotation marks. So here, 2 beavers were watching. "Moose is drinking all of our water," they said. So we know that with these quotation marks, the beavers were talking. So we can say the beavers, we can say the 2 beavers were the first animals to speak, right? Okay. So now let's go to our next question. What happens after fly bites moose? Okay, let's see. What happens after fly bites moose? So we can go up here and we can say that moose stomped his foot and then moose ran away, right? So after fly bit moose, he stomped his foot and then ran away, right? So after fly bit moose, the moose stomped his foot and then he ran away. Now let's go to our last question. What kind of story is this and how do you know? Okay, let's make this bigger so we can answer the question. So we can say, what kind of story is this? How do you know? So we can say that this story is a folk tale, right? And how do we know it's a folk tale? We know it is a folk tale because the animals can talk, so we know it's fiction, and the story teaches us a lesson, right? So this story is a folk tale. We know it is a folk tale because the animals can talk and the story teaches us a lesson, okay? So let's add one more thing here. The animals can talk. The animals can talk, which means the story is fiction. Then we can say the story also teaches us a lesson. Okay? All right, so I'll read these 2 one more time for us. Which animals speak first? The 2 beavers were the first animals to speak. What happens after fly bites moose? After fly bit moose, moose stomped his foot and then ran away. Okay, so those are all of our questions and retelling for this section. Now, let's go to our next section. Genre, nonfiction, compare texts. Read about the animals in Fly to the Rescue. Okay, so animal traits. What animal flies? What animal swims? Read about different animals in the chart. So this animal is a beaver, I think, because it's chewing wood, and I think I see its tail. But let's read this chart about the animals. Fly, beaver. Flies have 5 eyes. 5. They have 5 eyes. Beavers have strong front teeth. You can see the beaver's teeth right here. They're very strong. They can chew wood with their teeth, and their teeth are okay. Flies have 2 antennae. The antennae help flies find food. Beavers use their teeth to chop down trees. Wow. So flies have antennae that they use to help them find food. Beavers use their teeth. If there's a tree, they go, woo, and then the tree falls down. Flies drink their food. They turn food into liquid first. Beavers build dams and lodges. So flies first put something on the food, and then they use a little straw and they go, and they drink their food because the stuff that they put on the food makes it turn to liquid. Okay? Flies don't have any teeth, just a straw. Beavers build dams and lodges. So beavers build dams in the water and lodges in the water. A lodge is a big dome house made out of wood. And so the beavers can go under the water and then come up and they're inside their dome. Flies can move very fast. Flies go shoo, shoo, shoo. They fly all over. Beavers have webbed back feet that help them swim. So flies fly in the air and beavers swim in the water very fast. Okay? So we learned some different things about flies and beavers. Now let's talk about fish and moose. Fish. Moose. Fish must live in water. Fish breathe through gills. Most fish have fins that help them swim. Most fish have scales that help keep them safe. Okay, so we can see that fish live in the water, like in the story, right? They breathe through their gills. So when they're underwater, their gills are on the sides of their body, and it brings in the water, and it takes oxygen out of the water so the fish can breathe, and then it spits the water back out into the lake. It's pretty cool, right? Yeah. Most fish have fins that help them swim. We can see here's a fin, and here's other fins. So they use their fins to swim in the water. And most fish have scales that help keep them safe. Scales are like body armor. They're sharp, so if someone tries to eat them or someone tries to rub against them, it makes the other person get hurt or the other animal get hurt. They go, oh! And then that other animal runs away. It doesn't eat the fish. So now let's talk about the moose. Moose can weigh as much as 14,000 pounds. So 14,000 pounds, let me check, is 640 kilograms. That is really heavy. Moose are very big. Males have antlers. They grow new antlers each year. So you can see here's the antlers on the moose. Every year, more of these little antlers come out of their head. Moose have large hooves. Their hoof is probably this big, almost the size of your face. They're big animals. Moose can hear and smell well, but they can't see very well. So their eyes aren't very good, but their nose and their ears are very, very good. They can hear you from coming from a long distance away, and they can probably even smell you too. Okay? Now, make connections. Look at both selections. What did you learn that you didn't know before? Hmm. Well, I learned that moose can be very heavy. And I also learned that beavers use their teeth to chop down trees. And I also learned that flies drink their food. They turn food into liquid first. I didn't know that before either. So I hope that you learned some new things too. Okay? Whatever you learned, you can talk with your mother or your father and tell them what you learned. Okay. Now focus on genre. Folktale. A folktale is a story based on customs and traditions. Folktales often teach a lesson even though the events are not real. What to look for? Fly says the small can win if they use their brains. Fly is teaching us a lesson. We also know the animals in the story talk, and real animals don't talk. So that's how we know it's fiction. All right? Now your turn. Make up a folktale with talking animals that teach a lesson. Present your folktale to the class. So this is something you can do with your mother and father, okay? So maybe you can talk about a bear that's small, right? A bear is smaller than every other bear. And all the big bears make fun of that little bear for being so small. But one day the bears are playing with the ball, right? And maybe the ball goes into a little hole. So the big bears can't get the ball out of the hole. But the little bear can crawl into the hole and grab the ball and pull it out, right? And so that teaches the bears that being little is good sometimes, right? It's okay to be little because you can do some things that big people can't, right? So that's my story about animals that teach a lesson. Now you can write a story too and tell your mother and father. Okay? Okay, now let's go to our last page of the day. We're answering 3 more questions and then we are done. Okay. So, let me put my word box here and we will start answering questions. So question 1. Who is the most helpful character in the story? Why? So, who is the most helpful character in the story and why? Well, we know that the most helpful character story is the, let's shout it together. 1, 2, 3. Fly! Right? Yeah, the most helpful character is the fly. He is the most helpful character because he makes the moose leave the river, right? So he is the most helpful character because he makes the moose leave the river. Okay? So all of the other animals couldn't do anything to help, but the fly did. Okay? Now let's go to our next question. What happens after the beavers see the moose drinking? So what happens after the beavers see the moose drinking? And then our second question is, who helps the animals at the end of the story? So let's see what happens in our sequence. So after the beavers see the moose drinking, the muskrats saw the moose drinking, and then the fish saw the moose drinking, right? So we can say after the beavers saw the moose drinking, the muskrats and the fish saw the moose drinking too. And this is a question that's similar to this question, right? Who helps the animals at the end of the story? Well, we know that Fly helps the animals at the end of the story, right? Okay. So now let's go to our last question. What other folk tales have you read about animals that help each other? What was the problem? How was it solved? So we read a folk tale before, right? About the bat and the birds and how the bat got its wings, right? So we can talk about that now. What other folk tales have you read about animals that help each other? What was the problem? How was it solved? So we can talk about our bat story, right? So we can say that we read a story about how the bat got its wings. The problem was the bat didn't fit on the animal team, and he didn't fit on the bird team either, right? So how did they fix the problem? The problem was solved when the birds made wings for the bat, right? Then the bat could play on the birds' team and he helped them win, right? So we read a story about how the bat got its wings. The problem was the bat didn't fit on the animal team and he didn't fit on the bird team either. The problem was solved when the birds made wings for the bat. Then the bat could play on the birds' team and he helped them win, right? Okay, so that is all of our lesson for today. So it's time for me to say bye-bye. All right, but I will see you next time. And next time we are going to learn more and read more together about different things, okay? All right, you learned so much this week and did a good job. Now I hope you can take some time and go and look at animals and see how they are special, okay? Okay, bye-bye.